Hi, I am TJ Guetzke, and I will be talking to you about my informational book called The Walrus by Donald William Tendick Sr. The Walrus is an autobiography about my very own great-grandfather, Donald William Tendick Sr. Although I was never able to meet him personally, as he passed away shortly before I was born, I have come to learn that he was a very extremely successful entrepreneur, kind, and charitable man. People that he influenced throughout his life described him as a guiding hand, pathfinder, leader, entrepreneur, innovator, mentor, and most of all, a friend. Donald William Tendick Sr. was born on August 15, 1927. His family was from northern Germany and came to America in 1848. Bernard Tendick, his great-grandfather, married Anna Bruckschen. Their kids were named Henry and Frederick. Henry married Anna Treck. They also had two children named Harry and Frederick. Harry got married to Mildred Dillman, which were his parents. They had Donald, my great-grandfather, and Dorothy. Donald's first house was on 91st Street in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. He lived there for about 12 years and had been attending Washington Grade School. At the start of the Great Depression, they moved to a house on North Avenue in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. He moved on to high school at Longfellow High School in Wauwatosa. He played on the varsity football team for all his years there. He started his first job working in the school cafeteria after school and then moved on to being a flower delivery guy at Fritch's Florist on 66th Street, getting paid about $3 a week. He started getting in a bad position grade-wise, but because he could not get enough credits to pass the metalworking class. The metalworking teacher gave him another chance, and he passed with a D-, so he got a diploma and graduated. About a year later, he entered the military for about 6 years. Right after he worked in the military, he worked at the Harnischweger Corporation. He met a girl named Rosemary there and decided to marry her. They got married and had two children, Michael, my grandfather, and Donald Jr. Here, at 10209 West Sunset Avenue in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. This location is crucial. It is here where Donald Tendick began the lamplight business. But let's start from the beginning. On Labor Day, 1964, Donald was with his wife Rosemary going to a friend's candle shop to go see what it was like. When they got there, they noticed a peppermint-scented oil. Rosemary had collected oil lamps and had been putting colored water in them to be pretty, but this was not useful. So they were very interested in this bottle of scented oil. The only problem was the cost was so much. They could never afford $1.50 for one bottle. So Donald went home and he decided to make it for himself in his basement. He experimented for days on this and finally came up with 2 homemade scented oil for lamps. And he had been My great-grandfather put in his book that he experimented so much that if he were to go into that house today, he would probably still smell the peppermint in the sink. He showed his wife, and she wanted to make it a hobby. They found a lamp maker in Mexico and bought about 120 lamps that took 3 weeks to ship. Once they got the lamps, they put their scented colored oil in them and began selling. He decided to go to some local stores, and they loved the product, so he kept on making it. As soon as it got so popular that it was clear that they couldn't do this in their basement anymore. So they found a space for rent on 124th Street and set up their first production line. He decided to let a major oil lamp seller sell them. About a year later, the company went out of business, so he needed a seller. He thought about this and hired a few friends for salesmen. Eventually, the business grew, and there was no official name still. He needed a name, so he decided Universal Oil. But they could only have a 9-letter name due to printing costs, so he came up with Lamplight, officially Lamplight Farms. it grew, it became the #1 oil lamp seller and producer in America, and it still is today. Now he wanted to make it a new worldwide thing, so he bought a building in the United Kingdom in 1977 and sent a few workers there to run it. It started off not doing so well, but he worked it up to being somewhat of a good seller in Europe. About a year later, in 1978, he woke up and turned on the TV like he normally did every day. When he turned it on, it said, "Breaking news! The Lamplight production, offices, and oil storage building is on fire and burning to the ground." He called his sons, who were already there, if he should come down there and check it out. They said yes, so he was on his way. When he got there, it was about 7 a.m., so no one was working. He asked the firemen how it started, and the man said it started from a janitor throwing a cigarette in the trash bin. Shortly after, he started to build another office building in Brookfield. After the new building was made, they filled their 1 millionth bottle of lamplight oil with Wisconsin's Governor Warner G. Knowles in attendance for the celebration. Eventually, the business continued to grow and grow. In the 1980s, the company built their largest and current facility in the headquarters off of Lilly Road in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. This is where I'm standing now. Over these years, the company invented the tiki torch, and in 1992 began producing scented candles like this one here and that one there. Donald always believed that oil is much better to burn and smells better than kerosene, and he was right. Had a love for horses and to own a farm. He was looking for a long time, and then 2 farms in Sauksville opened up for sale. One, which was very expensive, included many things Donald wanted, including lots of acres. And the other one, which had a barn and very, very few acres. He was about to buy the cheap small one, but then an offer came up on the big farm that was unbeatable. He ended up buying the farm in February 1972, and here I am today. Since Donald was a busy guy, he hired a guy named Ralph Vanderboom to take care of the farm. A year later, after Donald bought the farm, he got his first horse named Jaja. Next came Happy, then Sergeant, his best friend. Sergeant would only let Donald ride him for as long as he lived. They also had pigs, dogs, and some cows, which are not here today though. He used the farm as a relaxation place on weekends and also held company outings here and wore this boss hat while having fun. The farm has a beautiful lake, a small house, and a barn. Donald had such a fun time here that he arranged builders to make a mausoleum, where he eventually was laid to rest. the rest. In May 1998, Donald and Rosemary sold their controlling interest in Lamplight Farms due to Donald's failing health with congestive heart failure. Prior to his passing, in May of 2000, Donald and his wife Rosemary were extremely generous to many causes. Donald was the founder of the Vince Lombardi Memorial Golf Classic, which funds the Vince Lombardi Cancer Clinic, which remains today at St. Luke's Hospital. He also helped revive the Milwaukee Christmas Parade, funded the Tendick Center for Surgical Treatment for Heart Failure at St. Luke's Medical Center, which stands today, and gave charitable donations and time to countless causes. At the end of the book, he wrote, "When I look back at where I came from, I just shake my head and thank the Lord." As a senior in high school, I was still tying my shoelaces in knots if they broke because I couldn't afford to buy a new pair. I never dreamed about being able to drive into a parking lot of a country club. And here I am at age 70. I am a stockholder in 3 such clubs. Nothing is impossible in the country that we live in and the free economic society that we are able to work in. But we must preserve it for those who follow.